Two of your most disappointing films for 2023, horror films for 2023.
First one is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Didn't see it. Had no interest.
Yeah, I thought it would be really cool. I thought it could be. It's a cool idea. I like the idea of. You know what? In the opposite. I hate this copyright law. You know, I think that Disney dragged it on for too long, and they're getting theirs now this year because of Mickey.
Yeah.
You know,
well, Steamboat Willie, that Mickey, right, is public domain, right? Yes. Yeah, he's public, but not like the real Mickey Mouse, I guess. I don't think he's public domain,
it's
right?
Steamboat with just Steamboat Willie. I feel like, personally, I feel like copyright law inhibits a lot of things because sometimes you can have a great character. So let's put it this way. If copyright law was more extended than it was, you'd have one Dracula movie, you'd have one Frankenstein movie, you know, you'd have 0 HP Lovecraft movies. 0. Like, it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for film, if it wasn't for stories falling into public domain. Every single film that had anything to do with HP Lovecraft would have to get permission from the estate. Now,
there would be a lot less HP Lovecraft movies if it wasn't for that.
Yeah,
so
I don't think there'd be any.
Probably not.
The first HP Lovecraft directly inspired films were not until the 80s. Imagine, and that's all of a sudden, HP Lovecraft blew up in popularity as a result of that. You know, I was talking about this with somebody else about how copyright law actually kind of falls things into obscurity, because we were talking about Wizard of Oz. Now that I think about it, because there's another Wizard of Oz coming, and there's always a musical, and there's another adaptation here. Every 20 years or so, you get a resurgence of Wizard of Oz, and I feel like the copyright laws as they are right now really inhibit that. So I was really looking forward to the fact that Winnie the Pooh was finally falling into public domain, and people can use it to do something more than what it was just written as. You know, people can get creative with it, and I really like that idea. Unfortunately, the movie was garbage. It had really nice gore. It was shot really well, you know, and even the costumes look pretty cool. But there's no story. There's nothing. It has a preamble in the beginning where Christopher Robin basically grew up, and as a result, Pooh and Piglet were left, and they hate him for leaving him. They hate him for leaving them.
This sounds ridiculous.
There was something else. Well, Eeyore was killed. Eeyore dies. Eeyore starves to death as a result of something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And they blame Christopher Robin for it because he left. Okay. So now they want revenge on him. In the course of revenge on him, they torture a bunch of people who happen to be in a cabin.
What?
They're just killing anyone that comes in.
Well, I think it's just an excuse to use these characters and make a slasher movie.
Fun.
That's all it is. Yeah.
It really was. Yeah. It was basically like Hostel with Winnie the Pooh. Like, they're just torturing these girls who were on vacation.
They're making a sequel too, right?
They are. Well, that's because Tigger just fell into public domain this year. So now they can add Tigger to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know if Eeyore is in public domain yet, which might be why he wasn't in there.
Steamboat Willie's getting his own slasher movie.
2 slashers
and a video game. Yeah. Yep. Interesting.
Yep.
And they can't call him Mickey Mouse. They have to call him Steamboat or Willie or something,
which is crazy because one of the movies is like Mickey's Steamboat or something like that.
Yeah, weird. You're going to see a lot of that happening over the next 30, 40 years, I have a feeling. Just music too. It happens, man. I haven't seen it.
I'm fine with it, but I was disappointed.
I had no interest. It looked pretty rough. Yeah. But whatever. I'll be very honest. Probably will never watch it.
Like I said, it looked good. The effects were good. Like, it had a good production value.
Yeah.
There just wasn't much to the story, and that really disappointed me. And I'm like, I don't know what the point of this was. It was a 90-minute movie. I think it was actually longer than now that I think about it. It might have been like an hour 45 or something. It was a long movie, and I'm like, nothing happens. I'm just watching him kill people. Like, the joke is over. Let's move on and do something with
Probably would have worked better as a short film.
Absolutely. And it even ends with a cliffhanger. So I knew they were going to do the next, like they finally get Christopher. I'm going to fucking spoil it because, like I said, don't even bother. But at the end of the movie, Christopher Robin comes back and they've got him tied up and he sacrifices himself to save one of the girls. And, it's okay. I'll stay here with you. It's for, you can do whatever you want to me. Just let her go. And Pooh says no. And he kills the girl anyway. Christopher Robin gets away and the movie's over. It ends with literally no resolution. Pooh and Piglet are still there, and Christopher Robin just runs, and that's pretty much the end of the movie.
They probably want to follow up that storyline in the next movie, so that makes sense.
100%. But that's not how you end a movie. You don't end a movie saying, "Oh, don't worry, there'll be more." This isn't a TV series. The movie has to stand on its own, and it doesn't.
I think, and I'll be honest, and I don't want to stay on the Pooh Bear horror stuff too long. I just think they knew marketing the movie would be easy. 100%. It's a Winnie the Pooh slasher movie.
Totally.
Who doesn't want to see cute little characters running around stabbing and chopping them?
They're not even cute. They're not even fucking cute.
There you go. So
they're big and ugly.
Not my cup of tea. I just didn't really want to watch it. What's your second one?
My second one is along the lines of I don't want to shit on indie horror, so I'm going to talk about a big horror.
Okay.
Scream 6.
Okay.
Scream 6. I heard good things about it. They got a whole new cast in it. We're basically restarting the whole thing. I know that a lot of the people were from Scream 5, but we've even changed. We're in New York now.
Yeah.
Changed location. We've changed everything about it. It's still a complete fucking waste of space. I will say, the subway scene, I'm sure you've seen it, right?
Yeah, we actually covered it on the channel as well. Chris and I covered it on the channel earlier this year. The subway. Or earlier last year.
The scene of her in the train is probably the best scene of any Scream movie. It is so well shot.
I'd agree.
It is incredible. Like that right there was perfect.
I like both subway scenes where I think it's all the same scene. I've only seen the movie once, so I have not revisited.
Where she's standing there and she's looking, and there's all the other people dressed, and it is absolutely perfect. It is one of the best crafted horror scenes, in a slasher in God, and easily one of the best of the entire series. Perfect.
I can agree with. I agree with you. It's probably the best scene in the movie. I'd say. I'm trying to think. I think the scene where they have the ladder in between two buildings could have been tense, but you knew who was gonna die when you watched it. You're like the girl's girlfriend's gonna die.
That's her chance to go.
She's not one of the main characters. This is where she died. Like you kind of could see.
She's not core 4.
Yeah, you could see that coming. I get it.
I felt like Hayden Panettiere was just kind of shoehorned in. That was obviously supposed to be Nev Campbell's role.
Okay.
Clearly that was supposed to be Nev Campbell. Yeah. But since they couldn't get her, let's get somebody else from another one of the movies and just randomly shove them in there.
And then they killed Dewey off in the previous movie, so they didn't have him.
It was a good death. That was a good death.
It was a good scene too.
But yes, that could have been Dewey in this movie as well. If they hadn't killed him off, they totally could have had him there where he decides to go.
I'm sure they're regretting killing him off now, the way things are going with that new movie. A year later,
he could have joined the FBI and become a profiler. After leaving the police department, he's clean. Yeah. Totally. The ending is a complete mess. The museum and all. I gotta
rewatch it. I enjoyed it for what it was.
The mother, the father, the sister, and the brother, they're all, Jesus.
I can tell you the real quick, I don't want to get into it. I did a whole episode with Chris, so I don't want to talk about it too much. I enjoyed most of it. I watched the movies the way I'd watch a really crappy Friday the 13th, like one of not my favorite Friday the 13th movies. Yeah. I watch it like that. The movies always look good. They're okay acted. They're what a Scream movie has become. Yeah. And that's just the way I see it. They're like, people always fight, what's the best sequel? What's this? To me, all the sequels are kind of the same. I think my least favorite one's probably the fourth one. And I don't know. I don't go into the movies with a critical eye. I just kind of watch them and I'm just like, all right,
No,
it's a Scream movie.
I've never been a big fan of Scream to begin with.
I never took you as a Scream guy. I don't think I've ever, the years I've known you, I don't think you've ever been like, Scream, hurrah. Like, yeah, I can't wait. So
you know what? I actually only saw, I'd only seen the first two, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, and 5. Part 3 and 4, part 3, I had watched 2022 for the first time ever. And then I watched part 4 because I knew that 5 was coming out. So we tried to catch up.
I'll never forget when part 5 came out. I sat down, watched part 4, and I hadn't seen part 4 in like 9 years or something. Like since almost when it came out. I forget. I try to forget. It's my least favorite
Timothy
one.
Oliphant is part 3, right?
2. He's part 2. I like part 2. Yeah, he's part 2. But part 4 is the one with. It's the one where the opening is all the fake out opening. Like it's another movie. It's another movie. It's something like that. Anna Paquin's in it.
It's a movie.
Yes,
and I said to myself, this is. I'm not even an Anna Paquin fan, but this is the worst thing she's ever done in her entire life. That might have been the point, but
probably.
It was still.
Yeah,
it was Anna Paquin, and who else was? Who's the other one?
Oh, Kristen Bell, I think is the
Kristen Bell. I said this is the worst thing they have ever done in their entire lives.
That was
they
probably
sleep with more talent than that scene.
That was probably my least favorite of all of them, and they're all the same to me. I enjoy I enjoy parts of all of them, but none of them will ever be as good as the first one. So, and I know that going into it, they're never. No movie will ever be as good as that. I think that's pretty. Everyone can agree, I think, with that one. Maybe some people don't. It's all subjective, honestly, too, at the end of the day. But regardless, I kind of treat them all the same. I didn't hate it. If I had a top 10, I don't think it would be in my top 10 of 2023. We're not doing top 10s. We're doing top 5s when we get to them. But yeah, I could see it was not.
I gave it 2.5 stars on my list.
And I could see that. I respect that. Yeah. I think it earned that on your end, especially the way kind of you watch movies and stuff. All right, before I get into mine, Lauren said, "You guys hear the rumors of the horror Scooby-Doo movie?" I did not. That's new to me too. Is Scooby-Doo in public domain? No, there's no way.
No,
there's no way.
From the 70s. So.
Maybe it's an official, like they license the characters and they are allowed to use them in a horror. That'd be kind of cool. Scooby-Doo, if it's live action, that'd be awesome. Who knows? I would have to do some research on that.
I'm Googling Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo. That's 2022. No, I'm not a big Scooby-Doo fan either.
Well, it's rumors, so maybe that's just something that people are talking about. Maybe it hasn't been officially announced. Or
2022, I will be releasing a Scooby-Doo fan film, Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the Crimson Shade. Is that one? Celebrate the 55th anniversary. That's I found that post.
Rumors of a horror Scooby-Doo movie. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that actually sounds like a cool idea. So. Who knows?
Scooby-Doo featuring the Hex Girls was canceled.
I don't know what that is, but okay. I wouldn't call myself I like Scooby-Doo, but I wouldn't call myself a Scooby-Doo aficionado. So
the goth band in the show. There's a female goth band, the Hex Girls.
I don't remember.
Part of the Scooby-Doo world.
It rings a bell, but I wouldn't. I don't know.
You're more Scooby-Doo than I am.
I'm not. I'm more Scooby-Doo than you are, and I don't even know that much about Scooby-Doo. Yeah. All right. Most disappointing, and I don't want to get too much into this either. I feel like we'll be here all night. So mine might be controversial. I don't know. Maybe there's people that really enjoyed these movies. I know one of them.
Controverse, sir. Go controverse.
I think one of them, it's kind of split down the middle. So the first one, I think I'd say 75-25. I think most people will agree was a big disappointment. The Exorcist Believer. Whoa. That's all I'll say. What was that?
90 minutes for one scene.
What was that? That was
scene.
All I'll say, and I'm not going to I don't want to crap on it, but I walked in excited, and literally, I left. First thing I said, that was disappointing. That was literally I remember that being my first words, like, wow, that was disappointing. I get what they were trying to do, but that ain't going to work with the Exorcist franchise. That could probably work with Halloween. Can't do it with it.
Did work with Halloween. It worked with Halloween.
It worked with Halloween because Halloween's a slasher movie, and I feel like you can go that legacy route. I feel doing it with The Exorcist feels shoehorned in, and that's exactly what
I
it
think
felt
that
like.
final scene made the whole movie. That's it. That's all I wanted to see. Just
Yeah.
that final 30 seconds. I waited 2 hours for that.
And I'm not going to say what it is in case people haven't seen it, but yeah, it was a cool concept.
That's all I wanted to see.
2 girls and other stuff
cool.
I don't want to get into because maybe someone hasn't seen it, but yeah,
it's very new.
It was just, I was just like, wow, what a bummer.
I thought
Ellen
the first
Bernstein
hour was really good.
The way they used her was a little kind of, it felt like, okay, here's a check.
It started well, and then the first hour was good, and then it just slowly got worse. It just slowly fell. Not worse. It fell apart.
Yeah.
It just fell apart as it went on. Like, I'm sitting in the theater wondering, I'm like, what is everybody talking about? This is actually really good. And then it just took a turn.
Then you went,
and it's just here it that I see it.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I think I fell asleep at one point. For a couple of minutes, I just dozed off. This is boring.
You woke up and you were like, wait, when did the girls show back up? What happened?
I woke up and the 2 of them were tied to the chairs together. I'm like, oh, all right, we're doing this. Great.
I could see it being a snooze fest. And speaking of snooze fest, my second disappointing movie of 2023, Skinamarink. That's probably the one I think some people loved it, some people hated it.
Skinamarink is on my list of one of those indie movies that I don't want to knock. That's me personally, because I know that it was just somebody who just made a movie in their house.
And I'll say this. I'm going to say this. I will not crap on it. 2 reasons. Mm-hmm. Number 1, it's an experimental film.
Yeah.
So it's
100%.
Not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's literally the definition of an experimental film.
It is
Skinamarink.
It is.
The second thing I will give them, and why I don't want to crap on it too much, it is an eerie movie. If you watch this, and that's what they said, and that's what I did my first time. Well, I tried to watch this movie twice. First time, watched it by myself here in the dark with headphones. I did that. I fell asleep 30 minutes into the movie. It was 10 p.m. Tried it again on the couch.
Yeah.
I got about 3/4 of the way. Fell asleep. I gave up on the movie.
I have not tried. Times.
Yeah. I didn't find it scary. I thought it was eerie at first, but what happens is 20 minutes into the movie, you become desensitized because it's the same thing over and over again. You're like, oh, wow, this is creepy. Is something going to jump out? Is something going to pop up in the background in the distance? Are we going to get... And it does it. Yeah. It does it. But after a certain point, you just are like, okay, that's me. I'm not... And I also think this, and this is me crapping on myself, maybe I am not pretentious enough for that type of movie. I'll be very, and I don't mean that as a slight on anyone that liked it. I just don't think the way I watch a movie, the kind of movies I like, Skinamarink is not it. And that, dude, there's other movies, and we've talked about Terrifier. There's just something about it. There's a disconnect between me and the movie. As a filmmaker, I'm not gonna say I've worked on with you or with my own stuff, make the greatest type of movie, the greatest films of all time. But, and people can be critical of our stuff and stuff I've worked on, stuff you've worked on, stuff we worked on together. But this is not, for me, when I watch a movie, Skinamarink was not it. That's my spiel. I don't want to get too, I don't want to crap on it too much because you're right. The guy made it for $15,000.
Yeah.
I respect what it stands for. I respect what he did as an independent filmmaker and the kind of nationwide phenomena it was last year, and everyone kind of, oh, have you watched that movie Skinamarink? Oh man, everyone talked about it. So I think that's probably one of the best things about it is just the word of mouth and what he was able to achieve with them. I don't even know the director's name. I haven't done a lot of research because
I can't remember his name.
I don't. I'll give you.
I give him credit in 2 ways, but
okay. What is it?
When I first heard about it, I was talking to Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Mario likes movies. I used to do the podcast with him.
Mm-hmm.
So every so often, me and him, he'll send me, like, you got to check this movie out. You know, we
Yeah.
still talk movies fairly regularly.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely loved it. He saw it at a film festival.
Okay.
He absolutely loved it. I think, like what you said, you said, maybe I'm not pretentious enough, not in a shitty way, just maybe I'm not this, whatever. I think that Skinamarink was made for a very specific audience, as most films are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the specific audience of Skinamarink is Mario, people like him, somebody like Mario. He sits on YouTube at night in his little empty apartment by himself.
Oh,
you
man.
know, no, I don't mean that in a
I
bad
know,
way.
I know.
I'm setting the scene. I'm setting the scene. He's in his apartment by himself and he's flipping through YouTube 2 o'clock in the morning because he's probably been sitting there editing or whatever he's been doing since 4 PM.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. The sun has set. He hasn't turned on a single light in his apartment because when he sat down, all the lights, everything was,
Yeah.
You've done it. I've done it. And in order to relax at the end of the night, he starts clicking through YouTube and he goes through creepy YouTube videos and he goes through ghost videos, those types of videos where you sit for 6 minutes watching like a camera and you wait for a chair to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you watch enough of them and you start to just get creeped out by just the sounds in your house. Because every little thing, because all those videos are all about this innocuous thing suddenly moving, and sitting staring at what was it? We all go to the World's Fair.
Yeah.
Was very similar. Was exactly that. It's just a girl who watches YouTube at night and goes through these videos, and she freaks herself out because she's watching these freaky videos. And I think Skinamarink was kind of that type of film where you're just watching something and you're letting the atmosphere draw you in.
Yeah, that's why I watched it in the dark alone with headphones, and it still.
I tried that, and I still didn't because
I fell asleep, like I said.
Yeah, I'm also not one of those people. I'm one of those people. I go on YouTube and I see that video. It's like where you get. I look at the timeline. I see that it's 7 minutes, and I scrub through it, looking for on YouTube when you pop it up, you can see the engagement. Yeah. I go right to that.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit for 6 minutes and wait for this, but. There are a lot of people who do. Mario's one of those. He's going to sit and let it draw him in. And I think Skinamarink was made for people who did that. And maybe the director does that. He did that himself and he wanted to make something that recreated that feeling of just staring at something and waiting for it to move. And the other thing I can speak to real quick is I'm actually on the same distributor as them. Bayview Entertainment released my film as well as Skinamarink, and I've talked to the guy who runs Bayview. He was just surprised as anybody else that film did as big as it is.
It was the marketing, man. It was that trailer.
He said, well, no, he said IFC Midnight took over a lot of that, but he's like, they bought it. They did not expect when they picked it up. I know the guy who actually picked it up from Saifuno Ventures, I think it was. And then Bayview acquired them, so they got the film and they took it. They were like, okay, this could be a cool little thing. And then IFC showed interest, and IFC did the whole thing. But when they picked it up, they did not expect it to be as big as it was. They just wanted to release a cool little indie film.
Yeah,
that
makes sense.
So it's all IFC Midnight that made that what it was. And he said that to me. He's like, IFC, they knew how to market it.
Hey, that's what sold. That's what sold the movie. Yes. It was that trailer, man. Then Shudder picking it up and all that stuff. So I think.
But to speak to that, the people who picked it up initially just said, "This is a cool little indie film. Somebody's going to enjoy it. Let's put it out there." They were just doing it for the sake of people should see the film. And IFC is the one that bombarded everybody with
hey man, it worked, and I commend them. Like, I give them a lot of credit. I'm sure that guy will make another movie. And listen, if he makes another movie, I am curious to see what the hell it is. Where do you go from there?
Yeah,
that's all I'll say.